Career paths are rarely linear. Some find their calling the moment their fingers touch a keyboard, others transition into tech mid career, and a few boldly step away to forge entirely new trajectories. In this episode, we sit with Jonathan Alua, a formerly trained computer engineer who defied expectations by pivoting into advocacy and tax consulting. Through candid storytelling, he shares the catalyst behind leaving engineering for policy and finance, strategies for navigating non traditional career shifts in tech adjacent fields, and actionable insights for those considering a career change. Whether you are questioning your own path or seeking inspiration for reinvention, Jonathan's journey challenges conventional notions of success in STEM. Enjoy this episode. Okay, so hello everyone and welcome to the Tech Surf podcast where we navigate today's tech wave one electrifying conversation at a time. I am your host, Raymond Klutse, and today I have someone who has, for the lack of a better word, escaped the Pivoting Career series, but I'll find a way to rename this episode for him. But today I have a techie who has chosen to leave us to keep writing code, and he has chosen to go to defend people in court. But today I have Jonathan here to tell us about his interesting career from computer engineering, out of computer engineering into law, and he's killing it there. So, Jonathan, thank you so much for making time to join today's episode.
Yeah, hi Ray. It's nice to be here. We've been, it's been a long time coming. We're
Right,
supposed to
right.
record this a long time ago, but for some reason you're a busy man, so I'm going to put the blame on you.
Well, fair, fair, fair. I don't think I'm as busy as you are because when I look at your schedule, your LinkedIn, and other things you're doing, I'm like, okay, Uncle is a very busy one. But yeah, I mean, we're living busy lives. The adult think they lied to us, but here we are. Anyway, so thanks once again. So I want you in the shortest amount of time to, introduce yourself, a brief background, and then we can get into the gist of today's conversation.
Right. As Ray said, I don't even think I saw myself as a computer engineer anymore. But like that was my first degree. I studied computer science and engineering,
Mm,
and yeah, it was fun while that lasted. I was basically interested in telecommunications and electronics, so I was huge on that bit of my program. I wasn't so much of like the Gen Z techie that everyone like sort of likes code nowadays. I
mm-hmm,
don't think that coding was exactly my forte when I was like into computer engineering. I love
mm,
electronics and telecommunications, so I was right on path to like do stuff like that because I used to work with, I interned with Millicom, like Tigo, no longer Tigo, now
yeah, I
ATX.
know. Right.
Yeah, I interned with those guys every single year of my time in engineering school, and it was fun. I loved it. And after school, I left for some reason. I found myself doing national service at GRA. And then I did a little bit of tax law there. I fell in love with law. I went to Legon. I went to law school. I became a lawyer. And long story short, today I practice law in Ghana. I do international tax consulting, and yeah, not so much of tech stuff anymore.
Mm.
But I still consider myself to be part of the fraternity because I have a whole lot of friends like still doing tech.
Right, right. So my sister went to university, and for me, I was supposed to come to UMAT as well, until life had other options for me, and so she read mechanical engineering. But I don't know. You may know them. I don't know if you know Thomas Darko.
Now that you mentioned that your sister went to my school, I kind of look at you and I think I know who your sister should be. So your sister
Nelly,
Nelly?
yes, Nelly Cliche is my
Yeah,
sister. Okay,
yeah,
so
cause I
yeah,
see the resemblance.
yes. So Nelly is my sister. So when I was getting started in this whole, I went to film school, and when I was thinking about what to do next, blah blah blah, she told me, computer engineering, computer science is a booming area, so I should consider it. So she got me in touch with Thomas Darko, Fitzgerald, and um, Saeed.
Saeed?
Exactly. So the what's the name? They had this Glivian or
Yeah,
something.
that was a company we founded when we were in UMAT.
Oh, so you were part.
Yeah, I was part
Oh
of
wow,
Glivian.
I see. Well, small world,
Mhm.
impressive. So that is actually how I got started into tech, and I'm just wondering, this is not about me, but it's about you. How did you find yourself reading computer engineering?
Yeah, so I went to Notre Dame. I was a science student, and medicine was just I didn't want to become a medical doctor, even though
Mm.
my mom would disagree. Maybe she doesn't disagree anymore, but my mom was bent on getting me into medical school.
Right.
I didn't want to go to medical school, so the compromise was, well, then you're doing science, medicine, or engineering, pick one. And I
Mm.
was like, yeah. I mean, I at the time I loved computers, so I was like, yeah, why not? So I almost, like, it was a split second decision. I almost went to tech to read computer science. I was
Mm.
on the verge of paying my admission fees, and my mom was like, you know what, I think you should go to UMass and do computer engineering and science, because UMass had like a fusion of both programs.
Mm.
And yeah, I was like, well, I could do that. So yeah, I think my decision to read computer engineering, computer science and engineering was because, like, growing up, I kind of loved computers. I went to science, like I read science in high school. Where I did well at it. I didn't want to do medicine. I was like, engineering is the next option, but which one of them? And I was like,
Mm.
well, it's either I do telecom engineering or I do
Mm.
computer engineering. And I ended up
Mm.
doing computer engineering. It was
Mm.
an amazing journey. So
Mm.
yeah.
Impressive. So you did mention that you were very interested in telecommunications. What kind of projects did you work on during your bachelor's? You said you work with Tigo. What does it entail? Like, being in the like being an enthusiast of telecom engineering.
Yeah, so essentially what you do as a telecom engineer, like, we're field maintenance engineers. That's in all the time that I work with Millicom, that's what we did. So essentially you see us moving from base station to base station, trying to, like, debug network situations and trying to fix network faults, and like sometimes just sitting in the office and monitoring the base stations and making sure that the signal is up and running everywhere you see. So that's essentially what we did back then. But I remember, so my final year project in UMAT was a blend of electronics and telecommunications. I think I worked on a accident vehicle prevention using an eye blink sensor.
Mm.
I think that was what my dissertation was in final year.
Mm.
Yeah, it got me reading a lot of electronic stuff, and I fell short of building a prototype because at the time it was very expensive to, like, get the components, but like at least in theory and at the level of simulation, I
Right.
think I had a watertight. I mean, I got an A for my project, so I think I
Okay.
had a watertight presentation out there. But yeah, that's how it was for my time at Millicom, and like just synthesizing electronics and computer science for my
Mm.
project work in UMass.
Right. Okay. So you have a computer engineering degree, but then you choose to go and work at GRA. And I always find it, maybe I'm a bit biased, but every time people have technical expertise, I always assume that they will go to a place that is maybe heavily technical, build a career from there before they then maybe are able to go and occupy some more senior roles in some places that are equally reputable but not necessarily technical.
Mhm.
But then you chose to go and do your national service at GRA. GRA, I'm not too sure what telecom is going on there. So what
Good
led you to
question.
that? Is Yeah.
I didn't choose to. I stumbled into GRA.
Okay.
So my preference was I wanted to do national service at NCA, National Communications Authority. So
Mm.
essentially the regulator of the space.
Mm.
So I mean, I thought everything was figured out because you know how it is as Ghana as national service. You need to
Mm.
make sure that you're posted where you want to go. So
All right.
I thought I had that on lock. And then when the postings came out, I was posted to the, like, original coordinating council in Tamale. And I was like, well, hold on, this is local government. So there's nothing over here for me as like an engineer,
Mm.
you know. So, I spoke to my dad, my mom, my uncle. I was trying to change my posting. It was just a long process. And then my uncle at the time was like the head of the one of the medium tax offices of the GRA. And he was
Mm.
like, you know what, I have a team that does compliance enforcement and debt management. And they do a little bit of computer stuff because, like, we maintained it, and it was just a very small database,
Right.
like just tracking taxpayer positions and ensuring that they comply with their tax liability. So I was like, okay, I mean, I could do that. So that's how I ended up at GRA. I
Mm.
stumbled into it. So I
Mm.
ended up working with that team. It was called the
Mm.
CEDM at the time, Compliance Enforcement and Debt Management. I was essentially there
Mm.
the guy who did a little IT for them, and then like went on trek with them to the field and all of that. And
Mm,
then I fell in love with tax law. It was fun working with them, trying to
mm,
like flesh out the law, trying to enforce tax law. And I was like, you know what?
mm,
One day I went into my uncle's office. I was like, I think I want to do law. I mean, even in UMAT, people who know me like know that people would say you would make a good lawyer. And I'm like, I'm in engineering school, you know that, right? Like it kept coming through. I'm even in high school, but I kept brushing it aside.
mm,
And then when I got to GRA, and then I realized that I could really do this law thing, I was like,
mm,
yeah, I'm going to law school.
mm. I
So
was just
yeah,
about to
that's
right. I was just about to ask that. Were you by any chance in the debating club? Were you always maybe a looter kind of person in uni fighting for people's rights? Yeah. Or were you in by any chance a president of any society, PRO? I don't know.
um I was all of those things. So in high school, I was the vice president of the debate club, and I was like one of the main debaters in my school. And in the university, I did all of those things that you just said. I did student politics, and actually, in my final year, people called me a looter for some reason.
Because okay,
Because
probably because your surname also has some
exactly,
allure there. I
exactly,
can
that's exactly why I did.
right.
I remember there was this time where something was happening on campus where I was like, no. So I ran for SRC president in UMAT and I didn't win. So I was an opposition leader. So, and there was one time where the incumbent, the SRC administration was doing something that just wasn't right. So I was like, we are gonna have to fight this, and like I mobilized the whole school to like sort of turn on the administration. And I remember at the time there was this R2B song that was also Olua is involved, and they found a way of like twisting the song into Alua is involved and
Oh
calling me Aluta.
wow.
Yeah, it's yeah. So a lot of people who went to UMass still remember me for my advocacy. Yeah, I was a student advocate in UMass, and of course in law school as well. I was a SRC president. So yeah,
That's impressive. So you finish your national service and then you choose to want to go to law school, and I'm sure you did a post grad law in University of Ghana. What was that like, being in a in I know you had done a bit of tax law at your national service, but then you get into a new setting where it's less of logical, okay, it is logical reasoning to some extent, but it's less of the mathematical approach to thinking and more of the application of law to do whatever. I'm not so much of a lawyer. I am intrigued because before I even continue, your lookalike says hi. I'm sure
Safo.
you know who that is. Yeah, Safo Akono. When I saw you, I was like, Safo, who is this? Because for those of you who are listening, Safo Akono is one of my brothers, and I was like, your lookalike. He was like, you work together. Like, how is that possible? But yes, I'm just intrigued by how that transition was like in the classroom, especially for you.
Yeah, when I first got to law school, you know how it is. Your background is clearly tech as well, so
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy. My whole academic life had been like play around, do whatever you want to do, and like a day or two before the exam, you can like find the stuff and cram the formula and stuff, and like it's mathematical. Once you know what the formula should
Mm-hmm.
produce, you're able to like. So it wasn't a lot of reading. Then I get to law school, and my very first lecture, the takeaway is like almost 200 pages of stuff to read. Will I survive here? Because I'm not so much of a reader, but I had to turn myself into one. So that was a challenge for me. And I say it and I say it all the time. Law is not hard. It's not one of the hard things you do in life. I have done differential equations, like those are hard things. Like I've seen some mathematical equations that got me thinking, thinking about my life twice. But like law is just a lot. And I think that's a challenge with law. It's just so much. It takes some. It takes a lot of analytical acumen to be able to go through law properly. But
Mm-hmm.
as far as the material is digestible, you're okay. And it's very digestible most of the time. It's just the volume. So that was my challenge, like going to Legon and like trying to become a lawyer. The very first year was just me surviving on caffeine and like just reading as much as I can because
Mm-hmm.
I've never read that much in my life. I think I read more I read more material in my first semester at Legon than I had read in my entire 4 years at UMass.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Impressive. So, what was your favorite subject? I know you're going to say tax law, but what was your favorite subject aside from tax when you were in university? And who probably taught that subject?
criminal law would be, yeah, it would be criminal law.
Why?
Yeah,
Because of the scenes. Are you by any chance a Harvey Specter kind of person, or I don't know? No, okay, no, I don't think
Harvey,
Harvey.
yeah,
I
Harvey
don't.
doesn't even do criminal
No,
law.
no, no, no. It's true. It's not Harvey. I think that was more of a Oliver Pope. I think Oliver Pope
Yeah,
was more of that kind of, yeah. Okay.
yeah, or Annalise Keaton. But
Yes, and he's skating. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I love criminal law. One, because of who taught it. The venerable Professor Henrietta Joy Abdullah Sabonsu. Yeah, she's a Supreme Court justice now, and she's just like the most exciting person to ever teach anything. Really, she's she's a woman with so much knowledge about the law. Kisia Jabin was also a
Mm.
criminal law
I
teacher.
think the
He's a
Mensa Bonsu name is it's a legal brand.
mhm.
Yeah.
Kisia Jabing, the special prosecutor, was also my lecturer. So
Mm.
the two of them handled criminal law. I think we also have Dr. Bassett, handle some parts of criminal law. And I was in Mensa Bonsu's criminal law tutorial. It just pushed me to like fall in love with the subject. So a lot of people, my mates who went to Lagos with me would have thought that if I was going to specialize in any branch of law, it would be criminal law.
Mm.
But nah,
Mm.
criminals don't have money unless it's white collar crime.
I've heard that a lot. I have a friend of mine here. She's a barrister in the UK, and she's working also. I don't know what she's doing now. By the time she's working as a paralegal, because she just finished the bar course, trying to get into pupillage. And every time we're talking, she's always like, I'm finding a way out of criminal, because criminal, like you're plateaued at a point unless even the white collar crime, it's always it's not as great, it's not as lucrative as one would imagine.
Mhm.
Now, coming from a tech background, I'm sure you've had to have some transferable skills, right? What are some of the main skills you think from your tech background helped you navigate the winding road of becoming a lawyer?
Number one, I think, is like your analytical skills. You see,
Mm,
you made a point at the beginning of all of this that like you might be shifting away from the mathematical way of doing things to a more, I don't remember the word you used,
yeah.
but you were just trying to explain how both are different. But I actually think that, so there was like my best friend, one of my closest friends, Eubank, was in law school with me, went to
Mm,
Legon with me, went to Makola with me. He studied electrical engineering at Tech. There was also Moses in my class. He was a pharmacist. There are a few like people who came into law school from science, just to say. But like tech specifically, I feel like tech and all engineering courses thrive a lot on like your analytical skills and your mathematical skills, right? There's
mm,
a lot of law thrives heavily in your analytical skills. It's a
mm,
lot of words you might think, but a lot of those words are like an amalgamation of common sense and like the interlocking force between a lot of the common sense I've gathered and we call law is is analytical skills. So you need
mm,
to be able to like leverage some of those analytical skills to make
mm,
sense out of the law. But like to be more specific about the kind of law I practice nowadays, because I do international tax consulting, I haven't totally abandoned my engineering because there's still numerical analysis that it's still something I work with a lot.
mm,
It's just like I work with numbers a lot because it's tax. Tax is a bill. It's a
mm,
bill that made up of numbers. So yeah, I
mm,
still your numerical analysis has to be watertight, at least in my specific type of practice. But for
mm,
every lawyer or every tech person transitioning into, don't leave your analytical skills behind.
mm,
You really need those. And I feel like the thing about techies is also that sometimes you're able to like you don't get something done in a day, right? You work in like one model, the next phase, like
mm-hmm.
it's a sequential approach to fixing or solving
Right.
problems all the time. It's the same thing
Right.
with law. If you think about it, like every case has a theory. Every single
Mm,
thing that you work on, whether it's a transaction, whether it's like a criminal case, whatever
mm,
it is, like it's a sequence. You need to be able to break it down with your theory. from phase one to the final stage of it. It's the same thought process.
Mm-hmm.
So take it as it comes. Phase one, make sure that like what the objectives are, what the goals are, they are met. Check that, you move to the next. Because all these like are inextricably intertwined. So you need to be able to like move from phase one, phase two to the very end seamlessly. And I feel like if you're able to like transfer that skill from your tech background right into law, you should be able to
Mm-hmm.
excel. I
Mm-hmm.
find that everybody who, like, not everybody, but a lot of people who come to tech, who come to law from tech or even engineering and other sciences excel.
Nice.
Mhm.
That is great. You did mention that the amount of reading required to become a lawyer was a lot for you. And I know, obviously, everyone listening knows that the law books to become a barrister are very huge. But I'm sure there are other challenges that you may have to, or you may have faced. For example, family. I'm tempted to speak in our local dialect, but the idea of becoming the next Steve Jobs or the next big thing in tech, probably they were excited and probably they were thrilled. I'm not saying, I know law is very much a reputable career as well, but I'm just wondering what are some of the challenges you were able to navigate? Did you have that challenge with family? Were they accepting of it, or are they lawyers themselves? Are they techies themselves? Yeah.
Now, my dad, my dad studied at Legon. My dad read English and
Mm,
literature at Legon. My mom is into university management. Neither
mm,
of my parents is into tech.
mm,
But my dad, like, I remember in the beginning, my dad, it didn't make sense to my dad. My dad
mm,
was like, so you want to leave IT, a very lucrative field, like,
mm,
it's the talk of town nowadays, and you want to leave IT and go to law? Walk me through your thought process. I was like, I don't know. I just feel like law is a thing for me. And I think he accepted it and we never had that conversation. And they've supported me. My family has been very supportive of that decision ever since. And I'm pretty sure they're like, he knew what he was about.
mm,
Even though I may not have known what I was about back then. I was like, Charlie, the law thing I just want to do.
mm,
I feel like it's, well, it doesn't work with everything in life because
mm,
I believe that you have to be very reflective about the decisions you take, right? I kind of feel like my decision to come to law was one I made in the moment, even though it was predicated by a lot of people telling me in the past that actually my French teacher, like, I don't tell my story without ever mentioning his name. I think he's now an associate professor.
mm,
I remember one time. So he taught me French in school, but there was a time when our social studies teacher wasn't well or something, and he had to step in. So he gave us this assignment, and then everybody like went to write their essays, and I remember this Monday morning when this guy came back to class with my script, and he was like reading my script to the whole class, and he was like, "Nah, like you guys all have to write like him." And so after,
mm,
and he knew my mom, so he kept telling my parents that, "You guys, I think that your son should be a lawyer." And I'll tell my teacher and even my parents that, I'm too smart to read general arts. So it was a very stupid thing to say at the time. But
mm.
yeah, so I feel like that's how I ended up doing science. And then ended up doing engineering. But some way, somehow, I still just had to come back to law.
You did mention about your French teacher. Do you still speak French?
Ampe.
Oh, okay.
It's just,
Okay.
I mean, even in UMAT, I mean, Nelly would tell you, they call it Introduction to French for Engineers or something.
Because you guys were close to Cote d'Ivoire.
Yeah, and also because a lot of like the mining engineers and like all of those other guys would like typically make more money as
Mm,
expats
mm,
in the francophone country. So yeah.
makes sense. Makes sense. Now, I know you went to law school in Ghana. You practice. You even worked with Safo and everything. Then you choose to go and get a master's. And for me, when I hear people going to get masters in, like, after being called to the bar, I'm wondering, is it because they want to go into academia, or it's just because they want to jackpot, or it's just because I don't know so much about the law? You went
E-
to get a master's. Like, what led you there?
Yeah. maybe a combination of a lot of those things, but
Mm,
definitely not a japa. My so a lot of people probably won't believe me when I say this, and even my friends won't believe. Some of them don't. But when I was leaving Ghana, I told them like, Charlie, I'm just gonna get my masters and come back because I was enjoying this law thing. I was enjoying law. It was okay. I think I was comfortable at least for. I'd been practicing for 2 years, and I won't say it was bad, and
mm,
it could only get better, right? So I liked it. But my decision to read, like to do the masters, was because I love teaching law, right? And I was a graduate assistant at Legon. I used to like teach. I used to be a graduate assistant for like the tax and criminal law team, so I like conduct tutorials and stuff. Yeah, I just love teaching, and it's not
mm,
like not to belittle the teaching profession or like the job of a lecturer, like a law lecturer in Ghana, doesn't pay. But I was I love teaching. I don't know how else to put it. So yeah, it
mm,
was one of the considerations for going to get my LLM was because I could like teach for the fun of it,
mm,
and also because obviously it's tax law, and if I was ever going to get a master's, it was going to be in tax. So
mm,
that was that. I did apply to uni. It's funny when I was in Legon, all of my mates, not all of my mates, my close friends knew that I wanted to go to Harvard for my LLM. But
mm,
I snapped out of it, when I got to law school and realized what I wanted to do for my master's. I
mm,
remember even after Legon, I got admission to Queen Mary's, like to read an LLM in media technology and telecommunications law. I almost went. I was like, is this what I really want to do? But like,
mm,
eventually I realized that tax was what I wanted to specialize in, and that's what I came to do my master's in. So let me just answer your question properly. Anyone who does a master's in law doesn't need to do a master's, right? Because as a lawyer in Ghana, you are very capable of handling whatever case because you're called to the bar as a barrister and a solicitor. Unlike in the UK where like we have the bifurcated system. So in Ghana you
mm,
can really do anything and everything as a lawyer. But people take LLMs for different reasons. Others just want to like learn more. Others want to japa, as you said. Others want to do it for academia. Others want to just build a personal brand. But in my
mm,
situation, as I said, it was a mix of a lot of these
mm.
things.
For our international listeners who do not know what Japa is, it is a jargon, a colloquial one for that matter, in Africa, which talks about people leaving their countries to greener pastures. So abroad, maybe the US, UK, Canada, and the like. Okay. So what has your experience in the US been so far? You know, before we even come to the academic part of it, climate, living. Are you alone? Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean, US was it was my first time in the US when I came here for school, and I was like, so the cultural shock. The first few months were tough. Um, these are things people don't tell you, you know, when you move away from home. And yeah, I was all by myself. I didn't have a roommate when I was in school.
Mm,
I was in a two-bedroom apartment on campus, but like my roommate didn't show up for some reason, so I was in that two-bedroom apartment by myself. So yeah, it was hard. Like especially the first few weeks,
mm,
transition, the cultural shock. But once you get a hang of that, you're fine. I feel like
mm,
it's a more advanced, economy, obviously, or country. Academically, there's a lot available to you. The resources are like limitless.
mm,
There's a lot of opportunity here, even though that's questionable.
mm,
It depends on how you look at it.
mm,
And I just feel like it's liberal. I'm a liberal person, so
mm,
I like it out here. And
mm. Okay.
now work has been because I do international tax consulting. I coming into work here. I There's a lot of accounting and then tax consulting, right? So in the beginning it was a little hard for me because I'm not an accountant, of course. But
Mm-hmm.
now I think I'm a semi accountant.
Yeah, you're affiliated.
I can, yeah,
Maybe
come,
we could call it AACCA and just add the
yeah,
affiliated there for you.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I comb through financials every day. So,
Right.
so
Right. Right. Speaking about going abroad and to study, I went to France. I was there for about 3 years. I'm so grateful to people like Safo and my other friends, 1000, Anaya Oforiata, Nashome Begasin, and a lot of people. I can't mention them, but those are the ones I used to speak to a lot. And they saw me in all my elements and my family, Nelly and my parents and all that. France was hard. And when I say hard, I'm not trying to discourage anyone from going abroad. I'm talking about the level of hard I chose to put myself through. Here I am. Yes, I am fluent in French and English, but studying technical data science related courses in another language is not fun. I was only Ghanaian in my school for that matter. I had to create or find community in other communities. So the culture shock or being rejected as a point and most of the time people when like people go abroad and they glamorize abroad, you have your trench coat, you stay in the winter looking good on Instagram, and it's all part of the perks, right?
Hmm.
We need to you need to show us receipts that you've been abroad,
Exactly.
because some people have said they've been abroad, but I don't want to throw the shade, but then we
You didn't
did
see anything.
exactly, so we want to
Mhm.
see, right? But I'm just wondering, were you open to people about how you were feeling? Apart, maybe was it friends back at home who may have also traveled before who understand, or did you reach out for any form of support, mental health, whatever it is? Yeah.
Yeah, I spoke a lot to like my friends. I still keep in touch with my friends, like in Ghana. And then my friends, my girlfriend,
Mm,
they're a huge part of like keeping me sane. Because like
mm,
it's as you said, it's hard. Like just leaving home, you get homesick sometimes. It's crazy. But yes, yeah, I used to talk a lot
mm,
to them, and I'm actually like a huge mental health advocate. So
mm,
I know what like talking to people can do about how you feel. I just like sitting on your emotions and like
mm,
swallowing it all can like just backfire in your face. So yeah,
mm,
yeah, I try to talk about how I feel a lot,
mm,
you know.
mm. All right.
Mm.
Now let's delve into the law, and for that matter, taxation. What about taxation intrigues you? Like, why are you? Because, like I said, I'm not excited about the tax man taking my money, although I know what it is for. But you just seem to be very intrigued about it. What led you there? Yeah.
Yeah, me neither. I'm not intrigued about the amount of money they take off my pay slip.
Okay,
So
that makes two
I
of
don't
us.
think I don't think anybody is ever excited about that. But you see, there's a lot more to tax than like paying up. There's also tax planning that actually prevents you from paying up needlessly.
Mm,
I feel like obviously tax should be viewed at like multiple levels. There's a part where obviously we are paying a price for living in a civilized society, as you said. So we pay the tax to the government whether we like it or not.
mm,
And then there's the part where, if you don't structure your business affairs properly and you don't plan your life properly, you might incur extra liability. And that's where the taxman comes in handy. There's a
mm,
lot, you can save yourself by just planning your business
mm,
better. So I'm actually more intrigued about like the opportunities to help businesses to grow because like if you look at the balance sheet of businesses, like one of the biggest, expenses that companies make is like taxes. And if your EMP is going to grow significantly, like your earnings and profits, and
mm,
obviously you're going to have to keep your tax bill lower, the lowest possible way, that you know
mm,
how to. And one of those ways is like tax planning. And here, even in international tax, that's essentially what we do.
mm,
Like, like giving advice to multinationals on how to structure their businesses to like limit tax liability,
mm,
on how to comply to avoid penalties, and just generally how to structure their business in the most tax efficient manner.
mm,
So yes, it's you and I might disagree with some of the taxes we see on our pay slips, but there's a lot more to taxation than just like personal income tax.
mm, mm, mm. Okay. Um, let's get into getting a job after school. I didn't get a job in France for various reasons. COVID happened. They felt, my experience was not, rich enough, even though there was quite some rich experience. But the French are a bit different. Then I got a job in the UK, and that's how I moved. For a lawyer who is listening, because I'm sure definitely is going to be more of lawyers and also tech techies who are thinking about getting into law. Um, what does it look like, especially in the US, getting a job And like what's the best advice you will give to people who find themselves studying abroad and wanting to stay, or even if not wanting to stay, wanting to get some international experience for a while?
Mhm. Um, I've had a conversation on Twitter about this same topic, so I'm glad
Mm,
you asked because
mm,
I need as many people as possible to hear this. People in law who want to like leave the country and get an LLM, it's
mm,
an excellent idea.
mm,
If you think you're going to use an LLM as a route to Japan and get a job, you have
mm,
to think twice about it. It's hard. I In my cohort there were maybe 10 or close to that number of students like that I know who came to do their
mm,
LLMs in the US, and maybe two of us got jobs after school. Like it's
mm,
hard because like the reasons why it's hard in the US is because the US doesn't trust that a foreign trained LLM has
mm,
the same level of understanding of significant US law as a JD.
mm,
And so the JDs will typically walk away with, you know, job offers.
mm,
Another thing that makes it hard is immigration. In the
mm.
UK, immigration is probably better. In the US,
Let's just
immigration
say
is hard.
okay.
It's
Uh,
difficult. It's a
mm,
more challenging situation in the US because to get hired by a company, you have an OPT after school. I know in the UK you have like a 2 year visa or something after
mm,
school,
mm,
and you can transition properly. But in the US, if you're not STEM based and law is not STEM, so in the US you're gonna have a 1 year OPT, optional practical training, extension to your visa where you get to like work for 1 year in a field that's connected to your LLM.
mm,
Beyond that, you don't have another chance. So
mm,
you get a company that's willing to sponsor you. Typically, they'll file an H-1B for you. That's like a raffle. The
mm,
H-1B is like a lottery nowadays, and so your chances of getting that's like 20-25%. If you don't get that, then you're going to have to consider other options, maybe
mm,
leaving the country, going to another jurisdiction. It's So companies weigh all of these options and they're like, is it worth it to like even hire foreign talent? Like law, I'm talking about law, not tech, because tech is
mm,
STEM, so it's easier for them.
mm,
So for law, it's very hard. But I find that tax LLMs are more marketable. To be fair, I keep saying it all the time. In my tax LLM class, almost everybody got hired.
mm,
You know, uh, so tax is more marketable, and I think it's because a lot of lawyers don't like numbers. So,
mm,
like to find lawyers who are willing to blend law and mathematics. And it's not even
mm,
like it's not complicated math. It's just addition, subtraction, and division,
mm,
But
mm,
to find lawyers who are willing to blend that and like steady tax, it's hard. So I feel like there are
mm,
not so many tax lawyers out there. So the demand for tax it's a function of demand and supply really. So
mm,
tax
mm,
LLMs
mm.
are more lucrative.
Okay. And amongst the options you had for your job search, was Deloitte always at the top, or Deloitte just came, along the way? But did you have other options, just so that people who are listening don't just come abroad or go to Georgetown like you did and say Jonathan went to Deloitte, it was easy for him, I'm going there as well. What are the other options you may have, come like that came your way? How was your job search like? Yeah, etc.
Um, I got my job 2 days ago. So 3 days ago was exactly 1 year
Mm,
since I accepted the offer. So I accepted my offer to work with Deloitte accepted 2 months after I started my LLM.
mm.
Yeah, so I got
Okay.
hired. Yeah, I got hired 2 months into my LLM
Is it because
program.
you're too brilliant?
No, it's because it's because of the grace of God. But it's
Okay.
it's so I accepted the offer, but I was trying to play ball. That's why I held out the offer long because I was also interviewing for a job at Amazon.
Mm.
They had this tax leadership development program that I had like made. I'd made a final cut and I was about to do the final round of interviews.
Right.
And so Amazon froze employment last year because they were like taking precautions and like just monitoring the markets. And
Mm.
so after they froze that rule, I was like, should I keep applying to other places? I was like, nah, I think Deloitte offered a lot of opportunity for growth
Mm.
and it was like a very it was like a very enticing place to work professionally, at
Mm.
least in tax consulting. So I was like,
Mm.
you know what? I said I stopped looking for a job after November. So even when like Amazon decided to like continue with their process, they took the freeze off and contacted me much later. I was like, I'm good. You know, you
Mm.
can pass it off to somebody else because I'm not
Right.
interested anymore. So
Right.
yeah, my job search process was fairly smooth by the grace
Mm.
of God. I would say I know how hard it has been for people who like came
Mm.
with me to do another. Mine
Mm.
was smoother. So yeah, I got a job after 2 months. I accepted it, and but a lot of people who take tax LLMs typically would end up in either law firms, big four accounting firms, or like a few non-profits, like not non-profits, like but maybe like tax reporting, like maybe
Mm.
Bloomberg,
Mm.
like maybe tax notes, yeah, like places like that.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. So we've stayed on the whole conversation around law, around your pivot and everything, and I believe that we are we we are more than our careers. In as much as they make us look good, in as much as they give us a brand and everything, there's so much that we like to do. And you clearly said you're a mental health advocate. You also said I've listened to a lot of your discussions, your Twitter spaces. I'll put that in the description for those who are interested. What does life look like away from your everyday life as a lawyer?
Yeah, I have a very functional social life. So I remember when I got out of Georgetown, like I have a friend. I don't know if you went to law to Fansipon at the same time as Kobe Amoa. Do you know
I
Kobe?
know Kobe Amoa. Oh, you
Yes.
do know him, small world. Yeah, I do know Kobe.
Yeah, so Kobe is my guy, and we are Georgetown together. So Kobe would joke that I had an LLM in tax law and a certificate in enjoyment because I, yeah, because I know they spare those. I believe like life is like it's supposed to be a holistic experience. So yeah, I play basketball.
Mm,
Recently, I've started playing soccer too. So
okay.
I probably will play soccer at noon today.
Mm.
So I play basketball. I play soccer. I like to party, but not so much anymore. I'm growing old.
Harry to you. Harry to you.
Yeah, not so much anymore. I'm growing old, and I have an absolutely amazing like partner, my girlfriend. So
Mm.
there's that.
Is she there with
And
you, or she's is she there with you,
no,
or she?
she's in Ghana.
Oh,
She's
okay.
a lawyer too. She's in
Oh,
Ghana.
okay.
Yeah, long distance relationships are hard. Don't do it.
I wouldn't recommend. It's once you've not recommended. I've even tried long distance friendships, and they are
Mhm.
hard enough.
Yeah.
So I would not really consider. Maybe reconsider. Or who knows? Maybe,
Yeah, you never
maybe
know.
you never know exactly. But yeah. Oh, I see. That's nice. So I mean, you have a. So would you say your work life balance is good? Because I've
Yeah,
had
yeah.
people. Yeah, I've had people who or like overtly told me my work life balance is terrible. But you would say you try to
Yeah,
balance it.
I try, and I have amazing friends. Like
Mm,
my friends that I host, like the Made Please the Post Pod podcast with
mm,
Junior, Eubank, DM.
mm.
So yeah,
Tell us a bit about that. What is your podcast about?
it's a project we had been trying to start since our days in law school. And we finally
Mm,
started sometime last year. It's essentially a community where we talk about issues affecting like the legal community. So like welfare issues, career advancement issues, sometimes entertainment stuff. It's a legal podcast. So we try and have
mm,
legal conversations.
mm,
But it's not a nerdy conversation. It's like where
mm,
we wind down and try and have conversations that have legal connotations, but that are like very relaxed for everybody
mm,
to follow. Yeah.
mm. I like asking my guests this question because I'm very much in a season of my birthday's in a week. And you
Oh.
know what birthdays do? They always make you pensive because you are a year
Hmm.
older. Then that's when the writers and poets like us arise and start having to put our words together and all the gargantuan words that we have to. I'm very much like Sappho, different, same personality. Okay, so he's an ambivert, but same personality to some extent, different approaches to a lot of things, but very much.
Sappho, do you agree that like we look at like because it's funny when Sappho was hired at my former firm, I wasn't I didn't think I was in the office when he was hired or something. So I
Right.
came in the next week And my managing partner was like, "We hired your lookalike," and I was like, "What?"
You you have no idea. It's just I don't know what it is, but it's the smile. There's so much resemblance, not even in terms of features, but even on a personality line. Like like you see the way you talk. Like there's just so much similarity. I cannot even pinpoint. But yeah, there is
I
something
know
there.
what
If
you
you
mean.
ask me, you see yourself in your in the mirror every day. Like, nah, I don't look like him. He will say same. But
Yeah, but he's a great guy
oh
though.
yes, yes. In fact, when we were talking, I did send him a picture. He was like, "Oh my god, I should send his love or send how should I say it? I'm talking to a lawyer. I have to be better in English. I should send I should send his love to you." But anyways, this series I try to mix it up not just only for people who are pivoting careers, but for both people and for people who are in tech trying to get into law, and and people who are in law who are trying to navigate the winding road of this career. I like asking this question because it allows people to reflect. If you could do something differently, what would it be? Your whole journey of getting to where you are now. What are some of the main things you'd have done differently?
Yeah, I feel like I should have networked better. People, you know, take for granted the role networking plays in your career, like your professional growth and advancement. A lot of it is tied down to how well you network. A lot of people can acquire technical skills. It's usually the soft skills that distinguish like excellent people from like average or good people. As you're saying, like if it's in the books, it can be learned, right? So if it's under the cover of a book, anybody at all who's like focused enough or who can read and write and comprehend should be able to understand it just as much as you do. What people can't do is to develop soft skills. I feel like that's more intrinsic. So soft skills are everything, and I feel like I should have paid more attention. I think it's not too late. I've been doing a great job at trying to like focus on my soft skills like relationship skills, emotional intelligence, commercial awareness. Those skills are like great assets to anyone, like in whatever walk of life you find yourself in. Even as a techie, like I remember when we started Glavion, and it's funny when we started Glavion level 200 or 100, it was me, and you probably know Kiddy as well,
No.
Manuel.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You,
yeah, yeah. I know him.
yeah.
I think he's doing
So
cybersecurity too now, right?
exactly. So it was Manuel, Gerald, Saeed, Lash. I don't know if you've met Lash.
I probably know him by his name, but not his. I don't know.
Yeah, Emmanuel Asabre. So Lash and then Gerald. So it was the five of us, and I remember how it was such a struggle back then because all these tech nerds trying to start a business, and so the, Manuel and I were like those like trying to blend in the soft skills
Mm,
and trying to figure out all of those other side. And these guys were like all about the code. And I'm saying this because this is a tech podcast, and I feel like one of the greatest values that you can have as a techie
mm,
is commercial
mm,
awareness. As for the technical skills, you're definitely gonna have that, and you're gonna need that to like be a good techie.
mm,
But to distinguish yourself and to build the next big thing, you need to be commercially aware.
mm,
And I feel like commercial awareness is everything. Sometimes you don't even need. You're not going to build if you're going to build the biggest project in the world. You're not going to be the one doing all the coding
mm,
behind it. Sometimes projects get bigger than one person can handle.
mm,
But what you need to be able to do is to be able to put yourself into the kind of person that can coordinate, the kind of person that can understand the need to diversify, the
mm,
kind of person that has emotional intelligence to withstand the pressures of your work, and above anything else, the kind of person that understands the market. So yeah, I feel like commercial awareness is everything, and I should
mm,
have paid more attention to that coming up.
mm,
But better late than never.
mm. All right. Um, that is some good advice you've given to some techies. Now, I want you to do something similar for people who are in the law space. my podcast is listened to, or people listen to my podcast for different reasons. There are maybe people who are into legal tech or law tech who are trying to get to know what's happening in the space. What advice would you also give to them? Because I'm sure maybe they are more commercially aware because of the nature of law. What kind of advice would you give to them as well?
Yeah, I feel like with law, you just need to understand that, especially in Ghana, I'm gonna like tailor my advice to Ghanaian law practice. It gets better with time.
Mm,
You know, the young lawyers in Ghana struggle a lot, and it's an issue we've been talking about. Remuneration, like I'm gonna hop on a call with a few friends of mine this afternoon to
mm,
talk about remuneration for lawyers. It's not the best. Like
mm,
we conducted a survey, we have the data, we are looking at it, and we're like, oh, it could be better. But like, you just need to be patient. The thing that we have to understand about law is that service to humanity, service to your client. Once you know that and understand that, nothing else bothers you because your big breakthrough is on the way.
mm,
Like, we need to view law as like a calling and a
mm,
service to humanity. So people, like, if you treat your client well, like in my former firm, there's there were times when like a client of mine, like it's not even a client of mine because it was my boss's client. Like
mm,
you treat them so well that they practically won't have their case conducted if you are not the one coming to do
mm,
it for them. And some clients can be like so appreciative of your efforts that they would be the stepping stone to the next big thing for
mm,
you. Like it's a world where a lot of success is going to depend on what your clients say about you.
mm,
So you need to be very wary of like the people you work with. Make sure you leave a good impression with your clients. It doesn't matter if they are not fee paying clients.
mm,
Actually, it's the clients who don't pay you anything at all who market you better than anybody else.
mm,
So you need to be like occasionally just do it. Like pro bono. There are times when you do cases for no dime, but in the long run, those cases or those matters that you work on will pay you big.
mm,
So I feel like patience is required.
mm,
I feel like lawyers need to snap out of there. We've been coerced into this corner where we are so timid of speaking the truth. I've never been like that. I've been a rebel all my life, and a rebel. Do you want to describe that? Yes, a rebel. I had to think about it, but yeah, I feel like lawyers should be able to. Somebody asked me recently why lawyers can't fight for themselves, but they are fighting for people's rights,
mm,
and it's we need to nobody can harm you if you're speaking the truth and you're doing it respectfully.
mm,
Like this survey that we're trying to conduct, people are afraid of even reporting how much they earn, even though it's chicken change. Because they're like, oh, if I sign in with my email address, they'll be able to tie this, response back to me and what will happen to me. And I'm like, spare me all of that. So we need to be bold because if we're going to make the profession better for everybody, we need to make sacrifices. And nobody is going to victimize you for speaking the truth.
mm,
So I feel like that's another thing. And the very final piece of advice I probably would have for lawyers is that make sure that no matter what you do, you have a plan in the medium term and the long term.
mm,
Don't take the law thing as like day by day. I've seen lawyers who take it day by day, every legal year after legal year, and after year 30 or year 35, they're like, they realize their energy can't take them so far anymore and they don't have an exit plan.
mm,
Make a plan. You don't have to be in court. If you're a litigant, you don't have to litigate for the rest of your life. Even if you're a transactional lawyer, you don't have to be a transactional lawyer at the same level for all your life. Have a plan. Like in the next 4 years, what am I doing with this law thing? In the next 6 years, what do I want to do? Do I want to start my own firm? Do I want to hire people? Do I want to pivot my practice? So always have a plan
mm,
and keep like catching up with trends
mm,
because it's the same way that the whole world is changing. Law is changing as well.
mm,
Like legal tech is a big thing right now,
mm.
and if you can't synthesize tech and law to serve your clients, you're going to be left behind soon.
Perfect. I really like that. What is your favorite quote? That you live by. What's the favorite quote you live by?
It's Latin. It translates to "Why we live, we serve." It's "Don't be really serving us."
Mm,
I've lived with that like since high school. I I feel like life in itself is a grand calling and like a service to God, service to mankind, and in every single thing that you do, just realize that even though you might be getting paid for it, you're serving somebody, and at the end of the day, customer satisfaction is key. So in everything you do, like I have a non-profit to my friends. We call it Show That to Lean On. I know this is even like this is way off the conversation that we are
It's
having,
fine.
but
Go for
I
it.
those are the little things that I do in my bid to like keep in line with what I believe is my life's mantra.
Mm.
That like no matter how high you go or how much progress you make in life, just be mindful of the fact that it's a call to ultimate
Mm.
service.
Mm.
Whether you're serving in church, serving in your community, serving wherever, just make sure that you're carrying somebody along with you somehow.
You are brilliant. I mean, I've seen you on Twitter. I've heard, listened to you on your space, and always known you to be definitely you're a lawyer, so you're eloquent. But I've always known you to be very good with your words, and at the same time, to not just empty words, but like words of wisdom. Everyone who listens to this space, goes like, thank you. And the fact that you're even doing that, Twitter space and even podcasting and everything is great. First, like to say thank you. I know it's been a long time coming, but I have enjoyed every bit of this conversation. I really did. It's opened my mind, even for me, opened my mind to um being commercially I think that's what I'm taking away, to be commercially aware. I think I am to some extent, but that's my major take for me as the one who got you here. But thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to seeing maybe meeting face to face. I think that would be great, but more importantly, seeing you do greater, bigger things in the professional space. And yeah, rooting for you.
Thanks, Ray, and thanks for having me.
Career journeys rarely follow a straight line, and Jonathan Alua's story proves it. For aspiring lawyers and tech enthusiasts alike, this narrative of reinvention provides a glimpse into the future where the line between digital innovation and legal knowledge continue to blur, paving the way for exciting new opportunities in both domains. Thank you for listening to this episode of the TechSF Podcast. See you in the next episode.